in order for me to put the center gauge cluster back in, I'm not going to worry about the clock, but there's a couple I need to worry about, mainly oil pressure, water temp, and fuel. As you saw from previous video, oil pressure worked. Fuel didn't, and water temp just went like that. It just stayed at 100. So there's a couple things I'm going to do before I troubleshoot anything in the car, and I'll show you why. Check out this fuel gauge. You see how it's nice and clean? It's because I disassembled everything and cleaned it up with my wire wheel. You see how this is all nasty and dirty? There's a potential that it's not going to work because of that. But something even more important is on this fuel gauge. I saw that this nut right here, which pretty much grounds the gauge, wasn't backed in like it's supposed to be. Also, these were put together incorrectly again, which is pretty common. I see a potential other problem right there, but it just shows that, you know, it's little stuff like this that you need to check. I did get this fuel gauge to work. I plugged it in, I lifted up the float in the tank, and it does work, which is now good because it leaves me just these two to go. I will clean up all these connections, take them all apart with a little nut driver, and then what I've been doing is I've been going online on eBay and looking at used clusters like this and seeing if mine are put together the same way. You notice how this resistor's underneath, but this resistor's on top. Stuff like that. You just need to make sure that they're put together the correct way. We have everything hooked up, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the water temperature here, the oil pressure here, and then here. And then turn the key on, we'll see what moves. Looks like water temperature went to 0, oil pressure went to 0, which it should, and the gas gauge is about half-ish. It keeps falling just a little bit. Okay, so that works. I know that works from driving it before. This is what I'm kind of worried about, because this one, the engine's hotter than 100. I just drove it around to test drive something, so I'm thinking there's an issue with the sender wire on this, and if you kind of look at that wire right there, that might be a problem. As you guys saw last time, the car's coming along fairly well. We fixed a lot of little issues, but there's still a couple more we need to do. So let's go ahead and make a list of the stuff that I need to get done before I can sell the car, because I'm not going to fix everything, but there's some stuff that just needs to happen. So we'll start here on the inside. We have door pulls to put on. The steering wheel, I need to make sure that it goes on straight. I thought I did that when I put the column together, but I guess not. So that's going to have to come apart, but that's not a big deal. That's maybe a half-hour job. The turn signal stopped working, so I need to go through that. That should be fairly easy since they worked before. The center gauge cluster needs to go back together. I need to get another sender to make that gauge work, but all the other ones now work. Test the wipers, make sure those work. Another door pull on that side. Obviously I need to dye the seat that goes on here, and I need to install all this trim up along the top, but I'm not worried about that. That doesn't take too long. Now for under the hood, pretty much I'm done for what I'm going to do to it. I need to maybe tidy up some wires and stuff like that. I probably should get the horn to work. There's a relay under the dash I need to fish out and find. Also, these headlights need to work. I need to get those to pop up and down, which that should be a fairly easy job. But exterior wise, I'm pretty much done with it. All the trim's on, all the chrome's on, all the emblems, stuff like that. I bought a nifty set of license plates for it. Oh, I need to paint these. I have a set of these I need to paint black, and then the one on the hood, it will be black as well. Just little odds and ends that I need to fix on this car. I don't know if I'm going to film all of them, but I'll try to film as many as I can. In the other room of my shop, I have this nifty whiteboard, which what I do with it is I write down all the things that need to get done. I don't think I'm going to get this all done in a day, but here's my list. So, rear end lube change out, get the headlights to work, get the horn to work, get the steering wheel fixed, test the wipers, install a radio, get the turn signals to work again, install the center gauges, rear trim and upper trim inside, and then dye the seat, which actually is not that long of a list, to tell you the truth. The number one cause of these headlights not working is leaky headlight actuators. Let me show you. You go into the car, and they're basically this big, they come through right here. You see the rod that comes through? Let's see, right, I can't show you. That right there. If you look down inside your hood, you'll see the big gold buckets that are in there. Those are your actuators. And there's a seal in there that gets degraded over time. I pulled the dust boot off of it so you can see it. So back inside of there is where it usually leaks. It just cracks and falls apart. To get it out, you got to take your two vacuum hoses off front and back, and then there's 4 mounting bolts that hold it in. I have a video on this. I'll put a link to it in the description if you want to watch a more in-depth, detailed way to do it. Make sure you close your hood, and then the actuator you should be able to move them out and then drop them out through the bottom. So pretty simple, but it's kind of a chore to get under here and do this. Here's the seal with this little retainer ring popped off. Basically, you undo one of the tabs and slide it over. It comes out. Try not to break these. You'll have to reuse them for your new seals. So here's the rip, right there. That's all extended out with this popped out of the actuator. Sometimes you have lazy headlights that kind of come up halfway. The reason why is that as this goes in and out, it can seal and create a vacuum, and then as it goes in and out, it can also release the vacuum and makes the headlight only go up about halfway. Mine weren't working at all, and with a hole that big, yeah, I could see why. So I'm sure the other one has a hole like that, and it's probably down inside here. That's usually where they're at, and you can't see them. So yeah, very, very common. Almost all C3s that haven't had these replaced yet will need them replaced, with the exception of that maroon 77. Maybe somebody had done that already, but you know what, that one still worked. So they're about $10 a piece, which is a pretty good deal considering working headlights are awesome. Alright, we have one side done. Something I want to show you guys is that this side was missing one of these springs. Of course I had one in my parts car, so no cost to me, but this is the kind of thing that I just can't let go. Like, yeah, it's still going to work with 3 springs and it's still going to be okay, but I see something missing, I got to put it back in. So it's going to have all 4 springs in this headlight. Alright, we got the car running. Started up great. That's what we have so far. Let's turn the headlight switch on. Looks like we got one. Let's see if we can count this one up. So I believe the issue we're going to have now is we're going to have a relay issue. These right here. I think I have some good ones that I can test with and see if that makes any difference. Luckily, they're pretty easy to change. Alright, round 2. I have a different relay. I left the old one up in there, but I have a different relay sitting with all the hoses connected the way they're supposed to be. And we'll see what happens. I think this relay is slow too, because this one takes forever to go down. It does go down, but not very quickly. You didn't see that, but do you see how fast that went up? Much better. I got a ground or a bad connection on this headlight, but I'll fix it. Alright, let's see what they do when they go down. Alright, that's down. Or that's off. Maybe that relay is not as good as I think it is. They're pretty stuck down. Well, up's always good. I might swap out that other relay and see if that does anything. Here's the wiring diagram for this car. I'm trying to fix the horn. So you notice there's one horn. So this horn, you follow the green line, it goes all the way to the bulkhead, right there. And it pops out of the bulkhead right here, and then it runs all the way up to the horn relay, which is the green, black, and the red. I looked under the dash, and guess what? There is no horn relay at all. It's just gone. Now, luckily for me, a parts car of mine has one that's identical, so let's see if that one works. So here's the parts car relay. It's got some water in it from sitting outside, but I've cleaned it up enough that I'm pretty sure it will work. So, relays are pretty simple. Here's my power supply set at 12 volts. You click one to ground, and then, so you see how that moves right there? Basically, that sends power to the horn. Like that. So we know that relay is good. So we can put that in the car and then see if it works. Half of the reason the horn didn't work is because this horn is pretty much garbage. These horns sit in the front of the car like this, and sometimes they can get water inside them. They have little contacts in them that go bad. You can open them up and fix them, but that's not worth my time. I have installed another horn right there, which is a known good horn. I had it on the bench with a power supply and it worked. So the missing the relay and the horn that doesn't go are the reasons why the horn didn't work in this car. I want to show you guys this piece because in addition to relays and bad horns, this is the most other common piece that goes bad. Also check this little plunger in here. So the way this works is this is a two-piece piece of metal divided by plastic rivets. See these plastic rivets? So in between these two pieces and this back ring, there's no metal at all. And the way the horn works is you ground out that relay, and then the relay will send power to the horn, making it go. I'll show you guys if I do this and ground out that little tab. I can get it. Oh, there we go. See? Horn works. That's essentially what this does. You push down on the horn button and you can see the two pieces of metal come together, which then completes the circuit, grounds out the relay, and then makes the horn work. This was actually kind of rusty, I believe, because it was sitting on the floor in the car. I've cleaned it up a little bit so that it does work. I will put it back together and then we will test it and see how it goes. And at this point we can do this. Horn works, steering wheel's on straight. Check off two things off the list. Still got quite a bit to go. Crazy problem. Out driving, and you guys saw in the other video the turn signals work great. But guess what? They don't work now. Don't worry, this isn't the harness out of the 74. This is a parts harness. But let me show you what my problem is. So the turn signals get their power from the fuse box. Alright, you see right here it says directional signal. So on my car I have no power to these two fuses on either side. So everything I've repaired has been good, it's just nothing's getting power. If you break the fuse box open and you look here on the back, you see, it's really hard to see, but there's a big orange wire right there, and it connects to those two fuses right there. Now, I'm assuming that is what gives it power, and then if you go to this pink wire will go all the way through the whole harness here to this directional flasher. That's where this pink wire goes. And it's easy to test that. So what we can do is we can turn our multimeter on, and then whenever you have a short, it beeps. So what I do with that is I can trace wires with it. So for example, let's bring this over here. So I can I should really go get my tripod. I can trace this pink wire right here to this pink wire right here. See that beep? Okay. That means that there's continuity between those wires. Now, like I said, the turn signals get power from this big orange wire that goes to the pink wire through the fuse, and then all the way to the flasher, and then from the flasher to the column, and blah blah blah, and that's how it's distributed. So, what I don't have is power to this orange wire, and so I have, using this harness, looking at it, I have figured out that for this wire runs from here to this connector right here. So if you look at this, this is for I think it's probably a 79, something like that harness, but they're plumbed basically the same way. If you're familiar with C3s, you'll see that these are the connectors for the ignition switch, and then this is for the actual turn signal switch and all that kind of stuff. So what I figured out is my problem is right here, and I'll show you why. I have power on the, you turn this over, I have power all throughout this side of the fuse box, and if you look at this large main feed that powers all of those fuses, this wire runs to here. So from what I can tell is power runs from this red wire through the ignition switch and then into the orange wire, and then it comes down and powers my turn signals, and then the power goes from there to the pink wire to the flasher, and then what it's supposed to do. So I think my problem is going to be on the connector on the on the ignition switch. So I'm going to go jiggle that around and see if I can't see something loose or something like that. Well, with help of my trusty wiring harness, I found the problem. You guys see that orange wire right in the middle of your screen, the big one? You see how it's pressed out of that connector? That's why my turn signals don't work. Stuff like this. I hate fixing things twice, but there we go. That was the fix. Next is the center console. I plan on putting a radio in it that's not going to work. Some of you will probably be like, oh, but here's the thing. Either I put a new stock radio in it and people are going to love it, and then whoever buys it doesn't love it. Or, other way around, I put a new radio in it, one of those retro sound radios that, you know, can play iTunes and stuff, and then whoever buys it is going to want the stock radio. So I can't ever win when it comes to radios. I'm going to go ahead and put in just pretty much a filler. That's what it's going to end up being. And go from there. So there it is, guys. The turn signal problem is fixed.